Babak Siavoshi is the CFO of Anduril, a defense tech company. They are building a cutting-edge product suite. Babak joined Anduril in 2018, just a year after the business was founded. And as you can imagine, his fingerprints are all over the company, the business, and the team. So I couldn't be more excited about hearing what he has to say tonight.
Thank you for flying out here across the country to be here with us. Anduril really was, I think, one of the first 10% functionally of customers we serve today.
We see you guys as a peer of ours in terms of kind of high growth startups.
Today, you're the CFO of frankly, what is valued as one of the most valuable companies on the planet. It's most recently valued at $14 billion. I was hoping you could give some context to everyone here about how you think about the CFO role.
When you change roles, if you can make everything you did up to this point maximally relevant, where can I make my past experiences relevant to my future experiences? Then that's probably like a good sign. So over time, I touched every part of the company. CFO, who had been with us for a few years, for personal reasons had to leave. Brian, our CEO, called me and said he wanted me to take over. Initially, it was temporary. And then what we learned very quickly was that what the company needed at that point in time was someone who really understood the business and could make the finance function, and Mike, my predecessor, had built a pretty strong finance function, make it relevant to the company's operations. And for companies that are doing something new, do you hire the subject matter expert and teach them the company, or do you hire someone who's going to be a really good fit, have them ramp up on the subject matter expertise? And there's not a binary answer. But at that point in the company's, in Anduril's life, I was already doing strategic finance. I had to learn accrual accounting, but really I had to make what the team's doing relevant to the company's operations. And it turned out that I probably was the best person for the job at that time.
What were the big things that you needed to get done over that first year? What were the key, when you think about like your responsibility to the rest of the company?
At scale, financial data becomes a better area of shared consensus around what matters at a company. I don't think it should be the thing that, at a startup in particular, that you're using to make all the decisions, but having an area of overlapping consensus. Company's financial goals and the company's mission are the two areas everyone in the company more or less agrees with. The more questions and hard decisions you can make using those things, I think the better. And so that means tracking data at a great level of detail and as real time as possible.
What kinds of things tend to distract strategic focus from folks in finance organizations? Or what were those like? Are there things that you would advise us to think about so we can hopefully automate that?
I do measure success by how much time we spend doing the deep thinking, the thinking in the shower. The risk with organizations that grow bigger and more complex, you are spending less time than you should actually thinking about the substantive issue, that thing, which is actually the key differentiator, right? The place where I see automation helping is tedious data gathering, putting together things into a presentable form, getting us to that point where we're thinking about things faster.
We're in New York City right now. Arguably, it's a city built on financial innovation, large companies built off of really understanding numbers at a deeper level. I'm curious what that has meant and looked like, inside of your walls and the company of Anduril, of whether it was the insight that originally came from the finance organization or you guided people towards decisions that alter the trajectory of those companies.
The government is notoriously bad at buying software. So the animating thesis for Anduril was we're going to wrap software and hardware, and we're going to sell them hardware. And the hardware is going to be so good because of the software that we're going to be able to charge kind of commercial prices and get margins that look a lot more like a commercial company than like a defense company that's paying for butts and seats rather than products. And that the customer is going to be happy because their total cost of ownership for these systems is going to be lower. They're going to save billions of dollars. So then turning that philosophy and that thesis into the literal price sheet, pricing for me has always been one of the most interesting areas to work in. You have to understand your customer, what makes them tick. You have to understand the broader market, the competition. When an organization gets big enough, it operates according to its incentive. Probably one of the most impactful things you can do is to set the right incentives. But that's also true of your customers, right? One of the areas where we've innovated was selling capabilities as a service. And sometimes that means it's more expensive for us because we got to fix things in the background. I'm sure you guys have done it too. What makes it work for us though is aligns our incentives with the customer's incentives. So if we build more reliable products, we do better.
Yep.
And the customer is better off too.
The guiding thesis of Ramp is, the average business owner didn't want what I think was getting offered to them. So let's align our incentives with customers. And I think you really are a leader in just autonomous capabilities of all types of systems. teams. I'm curious if you have a framework for just development of autonomous product generally.
Most of the autonomy use cases we do are to take dull, dirty, dangerous jobs away from people, not things that are drawing the most attention. And most of these use cases do not require you to be 100% effective. There's a lot of 80% use cases. Giving an operator a smaller set of decisions so they can spend more time thinking about it, narrowing down 12 hours of video to like the 5 minutes that matter. And you're then selecting for people with good judgment instead of people with like the patience to watch 12 hours of video. But there's versions of that fact pattern everywhere. There's parts of finance where you need basically high precision. So for those, it's probably, we're still a ways out, right? For those 100% use cases. There's a lot of 80% use cases in finance where it's just like, hey, in the data I have, show me the stuff that's relevant to some analysis I want to make so that I can go deeper into that. So it's like making our team more efficient.
What incentives have you set for your team, and how can Ramp reinforce them to make you happier?
The most important thing to me for my teams is that they are working on what's important to Anduril, and that they can articulate, no matter what they're doing, how that thing connects to what Anduril's mission is or Anduril's goals are, that they can measure the impact. And the levers I have to incentivize them to do that is to give them, one, to keep reminding them what's important to Anduril and force them to articulate why what they're doing ties to it. Two, it's what behavior you reward then. The ability to be strategic and then go way down in the weeds too. People who can do that, I like reward the hell out of because they tend to be very, very good.
We have a couple of questions about where exactly you're spending your time that you're obsessing over every day.
We're going from building hundreds to low thousands of systems to building tens of thousands of systems across more and more complex products. That implies a huge amount of some very big strategic kind of capital allocation. We just announced we're building a manufacturing facility that's going to grow to be 5 million square feet. So it's like a big boy kind of place. And there's going to be machinery, tooling. We're looking into the economics of manufacturing and so on. That's the area where I'm most focused right now. Getting that right.
You kind of imagine what your finance team will look like 5 years from now?
More of the finance and accounting function is based on human factors than people understand. That is both art and science, right? You're using past information to make future predictions. There's the science part of it. You're like doing planning, you're pulling data, etc. Jobs that will look very different, I think, in a decade or two. Then the art part of it, which like if you have good people on your finance and accounting teams, the analysis, the judgment, those things have to stay. I'm actually like an AI bull, like the late 90s and the internet age, where most of the dollars spent on the internet in 1998 were wasted. But it would have been, you would have been insanely wrong if you said, therefore the internet is not gonna like change the world. I think it's an exciting time to be building a business though. It's very fun.
It's changing faster than anything I've ever experienced for sure. Thank you for being here with us. We learned a lot.
Thank you guys, yeah, really appreciate it.